What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy TreJuanJohnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect Bud podcast. Before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just please make sure to keep those comments respectful. And if you're interested in supporting your favorite podcast, yours truly, your boy's Cashapp will be in the episode description. Um, and let you guys know I'm trying to move a little bit fast in this episode because like many of married men, the wife made plans that I was not expecting, and it met me when I got home. So, uh, got to wrap up, got to take a tour of a place at 6, and so I want to make sure I got this completed, and it'll be uploaded at some point this evening because tonight's also date night. So, yeah, awesome. To dos before dates. So, um, wanted to, the preseason's winding down, right? So just starting to kind of think about who are some guys that for the New Orleans Saints that I think may make the roster, who I think may not necessarily make the roster. I won't even want to add some guys that I think may be some um, practice squad candidates, if you will. So looking forward to seeing how the Saints kind of outline their roster. But we're going into the third and final game. Um, Still going through with the quarterback competition. Most people will tell you it's close. To me, based on what I've seen in both games, who players played with, who they played against, all those types of things in the moments. I'm more comfortable going with Spencer Rattler as a starting quarterback against Arizona. Again, that does not mean that he will finish the season as a starting quarterback, but I do think he's kind of separated himself a little bit. But it appears that the Saints staff and my client, Coach Kellen Moore, they're going to want to see how things play out in this third and final preseason game before making a decision. Also, a new roster update. We traded away Colin Sanders and ended up bringing in Fortnett or Fournette, I don't know, Fortner, sorry, Luke Fortner from Jacksonville, which is kind of weird. I couldn't remember ever experiencing that or seeing that after two teams played that same day. There's a trade, but Colin was clearly not, fitting in this new scheme, but appreciate his time in New Orleans. But and with the injuries to the offensive line, needing some depth there at both the center and the guard spots. Fortner brings a variety of experience in both areas, especially at center, where shout out to Ross Jackson for this. He's taken over 2,500 snaps, I believe, at the center position in the NFL. So knowing about who can step behind Eric McCoy if need be. Now, Torricelli Simpkins has done well in his stead. So maybe you're talking about moving Luke Fortner to guard and letting Simpkins continue to develop at that center position. But really looking forward to seeing how they do. But I kind of wanted to go through what I believe will be the 53-man roster. Please understand that Taysom and Foster Moreau, they necessarily won't be on here because they're injured, and so they won't count to the 53. So again, shout out to Ross Jackson for I asked him a question, wanted to be sure before I record this episode, and he did confirm that hey, these guys will not count towards the 53-man roster because they'll be coming into the year injured, is what we're assuming with both players suffering late season injuries. Neither has really participated in camp. They've kind of done some stuff on the side, but obviously no taking part in games and things like that. And to my knowledge, we haven't heard uh, a whole lot about their current status in terms of an expected timeline. So I think the Saints are going to take their time with those guys because both are going to play big parts in this offense, especially Foster Moreau. I assume with his ability as a blocker and a pass catcher, we saw him come on late last year, so I think he's going to play a big role in Kellen Moore's offense. So going down to 53, of course, we're going to start with the specialist. I think Blake Groupie, he's got the job in the bag. I don't think it was ever really a competition. James Burnup has been in a competition with Kyle Kroger, and I believe James Burnup, Roll Tide, is going to win that um, competition and be the Saints starting punter this year, which will be, I think, the fourth punter in 4 years since we let Thomas Morstead go, which is crazy, but looking forward to it. And then, of course, captain, long snapper Zach Wood, um, rolling out the three specialists. Um, I want to dive into defense first, obviously, because I think quarterback, everybody's going to be waiting to see what I think about the quarterback position. So I'm going to start defense. And for the first time in a long time, we actually have edge show up on the depth chart. And so looking at the edges, um, I have Grando, of course. I have Chase Young. I put Cam Jordan there because that's how they have him listed on the depth chart. I think Chris Rumph the second makes it, and I think Fadil Diggs, who was our seventh round pick this year, makes it. I think both have made Isaiah Foskey, who was our second round pick a few years ago, highly expendable. I do not think he makes this roster. He has showed no flash in his preseason after playing majority of the snaps at the edge position. I just haven't seen it. Chris Rumph has flashed on my screen. Fadil Diggs in moments has flashed on my screen. Now he is a 7 round pick. They may not. It may cut him and then let him go through waivers and bring him on a practice squad. Maybe try to uh, fill in with somebody else. But for now, I have them keeping 5 edge rushers to provide some depth there. And I think a guy like Grando, a guy like Cam, they can always slide inside. Even Chase Young to a degree. So looking forward to how they do that. But those are my 5 edges. At the defensive line position, which includes defensive ends and defensive tackles, I have Brian Brzee, of course, Devon Godchild. I have Nathan Shepard currently. I have Broughton, who was our 3rd round pick this year. And I have Bullard making a roster. I did not have Christian Boyd or Jonah Williams making a roster. Currently, Jonah Williams on a 1 year deal, Christian Boyd in his 2nd year. But still really raw. I think still learning. Obviously, I think he made Colin Sanders expendable in terms of the trade that went down. But I do think he's a guy that they're going to try to keep on the practice squad right now. I think a lot has been invested with this staff and Vernon Broughton, who recovered a big fumble this past game. And I think being a 3rd round pick, they're not going to cut him loose or try to move him to the practice squad, right, in his rookie year. So I think those are going to be your, what, one, two, three, four, five defensive linemen. I think with Brzee and Bullard and even Broughton to the extent you have your DNs. Of course, like I said, you have Grando and Cam that can move inside. So I think we're going to see a level of flexibility there. I do think I'm maybe a little bit light on defensive line, especially given how brutal and physical that position is. And so I'm excited to see what the actual depth chart looks like. But that's just kind of where I'm going at for now when I think about the edges and the defensive tackles or the nose tackles, I should say, and the versatility there. So that's kind of what I'm going with right now. A cornerback or linebacker, sorry, a little light there. I kept four on. Kept Demarco, obviously, or I mean Demario Davis, obviously, Pete Werner, obviously, Danny Stuntsman, obviously, and I was torn between Demarco Jackson or Jalen Ford, who had a huge interception um this past game, but I went Demarco Jackson. Just honestly, his key to special teams is what saved him in this roster spot. But if a guy like Jalen Ford, a guy like Isaiah Stallberg, if this new regime feels like, hey, these guys are giving us what we need on special teams, and we've seen them make a ton of plays during games, because Isaiah Stallberg has flashed on the screen, whether it was defensive snaps or special team snaps. So it could go either way, but I'm gonna keep DeMarco for now because I think he did have a really good game against the Chargers. Didn't have that good of a game this past game against the Jags, but I'm gonna keep him on there. But again, a guy like Jalen Ford, Nephi Sewell, Isaiah Stallberg, they are definitely practice squad candidates, but also guys that could make this 53. Then I'll go to the cornerbacks. Kool-Aid, obviously, Isaac Yiadom, Alante Taylor, Quincy Riley, Enrico Payton. I thought about, Rajon Wright. I thought about Ugo Amadi, um, who has essentially played that nickel when Alontae Taylor's not in the game, or that star position, I should say. And so he's very versatile as a safety and a cornerback, and I really wanted to keep him. But right now, I'm going to have him as a practice squad candidate. But again, a guy that I could see making this roster. And then I'll go to safeties and to round out my 53 or round out my defense. Sorry. Um, Blackman, Reed. I think Jordan Howden still makes this team. Jonas Sanker, you guys know how he balled against the Jags. I think he's a guy. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And JT Gray for some of the same reasons that I kept DeMarco Jackson on. JT Gray hasn't participated a whole ton, but he's an ace for us, a special teams captain. Or a team captain representing special teams. He's going to be a part of this team. And so I kept him there. Those are my 5 safeties. So really confident about the defensive roster here. I do think there may be a few changes here and there, but for the most part, I think I got the meat and potatoes in terms of the important guys on the roster, right? I think the discussion is going to be those backup positions and those players and who makes it and who doesn't. And this third game is going to play a huge part in that decision for this staff. Now I'm going to go offense. Starting with the offensive line, obviously, Banks at left tackle, Penning left guard, McCoy center, Ruiz unfortunately at right guard, and Talisa Fuaga at right tackle. And then I added, in terms of the reserve roles, I added Landon Young, who can play both tackle positions and both guard positions. Added Dylan Radens, who I think is going to slide into the left guard position, especially if Trevor Penning cannot start the year, but he can also play right guard. They tried him at tackle in the preseason against the Chargers, and against the Chargers, it was horrible. I think he played really, really well, or at least much, much better, I should say, against the Jags, playing in his natural guard position at left guard. But I think he makes this roster, a guy we brought in this offseason. I think Luke Fortner makes it. A guy we traded for. Of course, he was a fringe guy with the Jags, could very well be a fringe guy for us, but I think we brought him in because we saw the value that he can have at center and at guard, and a veteran at that. So I think he makes this roster. And Torricelli Simpkins, the third, man, like the guy's been playing, the guy's been balling at center. So I'm kind of wondering if they let him develop at center because he did really well. I haven't had an opportunity to really see him at the guard positions. And I think in this third game, you may see Fortner take the snaps at center, have Simpkins take snaps at hopefully right guard, and let's see how he fares because he could be a guy, even though undrafted free agent, that could maybe push a Ruiz out. A guy that this staff is not catered to, and they have no skin in the game. They didn't bring him in. They weren't a part of the regime that gave him an extension. So I want to. I'm kind of interested to see what happens in that third game and what that offensive line looks like. If a Simpkins moves to guard and a Fortner moves to center, and Simpkins is just as impressive at that guard position that he's been at the center position these past couple games. Tight end, of course, JaJuanJohnson is the mainstay. And then Stahl and Welch, I think I have rounded out the tight end position. But of course, when Foster and Taysom come back, I think Stola Welch should be be guys that get stashed in the practice squad, while Taysom and Foster kind of take on those tight end roles. And keep in mind Taysom for a second. I want to keep that in mind for you guys. But going to wide receiver, I'm gonna go Olave, obviously, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks. That's your top three. I'm gonna stay with Cedric Wilson Jr., a guy that has experience in his system, much like he had experience in last year's system, but had some really good years with Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator as well. Has that size that we're looking for. So again, kind of getting away from some of the smaller receivers that we currently have on this roster. He's a veteran guy. I think him and Brandon Cooks are going to be leaders in his locker room. I think he makes the 53. Mason Tipton has been a standout in camp and in the preseason. I think he makes this roster. The play and the games have spoken for itself, and so I'm excited to see if he can translate that to NFL Sundays and maybe get some opportunities. And I'm a add Dante Pettis had the touchdown that got us back in the game, and obviously we got a 2-point conversion with Spencer Rattler. Had a really good game last game. I think he had some drops that you want to see uh, taken back. I think that fade route at the goal line. Want to see him run a better route there, give the quarterback a better angle for space and things like that. But I think his value with his size, his speed, is real valuable for this team. But also what he can do on special teams. He was really good for us in replacement of Rashid Shaheed, who's going to be taking on more of a wide receiver role this year. Of course, he's going to have his role as a special teamer, but I do think Pettis provides that flexibility for us at both areas, wide receiver and special teams. Running back, I decided to keep four. Obviously, Alvin Kamara makes it. I think Kendrick Miller has shored up that RB2 position as it stands. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the guy that I'm keeping on the roster. Had a really good performance. Um, both games, honestly, the big touchdown that Tyler Shuck threw against the Chargers, that doesn't happen without a CEH block and picking up the blitz. Did well in the passing game, had some good runs running this past game. Really liked him. And for the fourth and final running back spot, I'm gonna go with Devin Neal. Really wanted to go with Willis Jones here, but Devin Neal is a guy they got, I think, in the fourth round. A guy I think they have expectations for, a guy that I kind of have high expectations for because I've seen him play in college and what he was for Kansas. And he is a bell cow running back. But I don't think early on the Saints is going to be asked to do that. And he has some good vision, has some bursts, but unfortunately we haven't been able to see him um, in the preseason because of an injury. But I don't think that injury is going to keep him from being able to be active week one. I'm hoping he can play and get some run during his preseason game, this final preseason game, but we'll see. Velus Jones is definitely a practice squad candidate. I think he has some juice to him as a runner, running between the tackles. Also, we know what he can do as a pass catcher because he is a former receiver. He's kind of been going back and forth between the wide receiver and running back positions. And I think him being a veteran, he's a guy that we don't have to have go on waivers. Can bring him back on the practice squad. Can help in that running back room. Can help on special teams as well. So that's the only reason why I didn't have him make the final cut for me. But let's go quarterback. Okay. Um, I think Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shook. I think we know this, right? I personally, like I said earlier in the show, I have Spencer Rattler being the starting quarterback against Arizona Cardinals week one. Tyler Shuck kind of backing him up, even though I think he showed some really good things, but I do think there's some things he needs to grow in his game. Yes, super senior, 7 years in college, but guys, only 40 something games. Like that's what 40 something games out of a possible potentially 90 almost. And again, he was on the bench his first couple years behind Justin Herbert. So you gotta take that with a grain of salt. So again, what 43 games out of 60 something, and then we didn't finish all of those games. He got injured in some things, played some games injured. So it's a lot. He's still very raw, still kind of learning who he is. Now, I do think there are some levels to his aspects to his game that that's just going to be him. I think the foot mechanics are just going to be him for the most part. I think the over reliance on his arm, when you have a cannon and a beautiful arm the way he does, you're going to rely on that a ton. And that's not always a bad thing because it can make some really great plays. But I do think he just still needs a little bit more time. And that's why I would go with Spencer Rattler to begin the year. Um, I have written down insert vet. I think they've been boosting up Jake Haener. I think they've talked about him actually having a shot at this quarterback one position to boost some value around the league. Um, but the games are the games, right? The practice reps are the practice reps, and he just hadn't been getting any action. This has been a two-person race from the very start between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. And I don't believe he's going to be a guy that we try to put in the practice squad. I don't believe he's a guy that we're going to keep on an active roster. I think the Saints are either going to cut or they're going to look to do like a player for player trade, like we did with Colin Sanders and Luke Fortner. Player for player trade, get a veteran quarterback in here. Or you trade Jake Haener away or cut him, and then you sign a backup quarterback that's been released. So whoever that may be. Um, There's some guys out there that are trade candidates. Jameis Winston is a trade candidate. I think Kenny Pickett is a trade candidate. Kenny Pickett being a guy that has familiarity with this system, and definitely somebody that you want to kind of have be an extra voice for the coaching staff. I don't think they're going to come in, go into the season with three young raw quarterbacks in terms of the knowledge of their system. I think it's going to help to have a veteran guy that knows how to prepare in this league. I think Snoop Huntley is a guy that you can look at and bring in a veteran guy. Played with the Ravens, played some games with the Dolphins last year in place of Tua. Um, I'd stay away from maybe a Jimmy G or somebody like that. But um, I do think there are some good guys out there, some good caliber veteran quarterbacks that you want to bring in and help your guys get accustomed to the NFL. Spencer's in his second year, first full year, really competing for a starting job. Tyler Shuck, obviously a rookie, and even Jake Hayner going into his third year, just not enough experience. And I think you need to add some experience in this room. And so I'm looking forward to seeing if we bring a vet in. We may just roll with all three guys on the roster all year. I do think we're going to have three quarterbacks on the roster, but I do think we're probably going to look to bring a veteran in replacement of Jake. And I told you guys to kind of think about Taysom Hill, and I think this came up on Nick Underhill's podcast, NOL Football, at one point in time, where he kind of even went as far to say, shit, I'd start Taysom. And I mean, he's a guy that has at least a winning track record, right? None of the other quarterbacks have won games. Obviously, Tyler Shuck hasn't even started a regular season NFL game. So I think, and the maybe ease Taysom in, like Taysom doesn't need reps as a tight end, as a playmaker. That's what he does, right? But he can use some reps in, and he's been around. He knows how to prepare. He could be a guy that is your backup quarterback, and then you have Tyler Shuck as your emergency guy, so he doesn't count towards your 53 on game days. So that's where I am. That's my 53, and probably gonna be wrong in some areas, but I think I'm gonna be right in most of the areas. But keep keep a close eye on how we navigate the quarterback position, and don't be surprised if we either bring a guy in or we utilize Taysom as kind of that backup option for us at quarterback. So, look, if there's anything I said that offended anybody, it's a good thing, right? It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.